As the final days of the 2024 presidential campaign approach, Donald Trump's team is once again caught in a whirlwind of chaos. For a man who thrives on unpredictability and shock value, it seems his own campaign is crumbling from within. Reports of internal strife, demotions, and erratic behavior from Trump himself have emerged, painting a picture of a campaign in turmoil. The once loyal communications team that crafted Trump's bombastic rhetoric has been sidelined, leaving questions about the future of the campaign's messaging strategy. A recent shakeup in Trump's communications department is sending ripples throughout the political landscape, with figures like Steve Chong and Leavitt, two of Trump's most prominent propaganda architects, being pushed aside. The cracks in the facade are becoming too large to ignore. But that's only part of the story. Behind closed doors, Trump's legendary temper is reportedly reaching a boiling point, with insiders revealing his fury toward both his staff and political opponents. As the election looms ever closer, one must ask, is this the beginning of the end for the Trump campaign? Trump's communications crisis, the shakeup nobody saw coming. As the media frenzy around Trump continues, reports of a massive internal shakeup have begun to emerge, signaling potential doom for the former president's re-election bid. At the heart of this turmoil is the abrupt demotion of Steve Chong and Leavitt, two key figures responsible for crafting Trump's controversial messaging over the years. According to insider reports, both Chong and Leavitt have been layered, a term that implies they have been demoted but not officially removed from their posts. While the campaign has made no formal announcement about their demotion, the writing is on the wall. Chong, who once led Trump's rapid response and social media teams, has now been replaced by Tim Murtaugh, a veteran of the Trump 2020 campaign. This sudden change has raised eyebrows, especially given how close we are to the election. It begs the question, why make such drastic changes so late in the game? If the campaign was going well, why the need to reshuffle the communications team just 25 days before the election? A top communications director for Kamala Harris's campaign sarcastically remarked, "A shakeup this late in the campaign is not a good sign." Hate to see it. The fall of Steve Chong, from propaganda architect to outcast. Steve Chong was once considered one of Trump's most loyal and effective communicators, though his style often courted controversy. His bizarre and often inflammatory posts on social media became a staple of Trump's online presence. For instance, Chong once posted a nonsensical Venn diagram with the label Kamala, seemingly mocking Vice President Kamala Harris, without any coherent point. It was part of a pattern in which Chong's communication strategy relied on juvenile humor and disinformation rather than substantive policy discussions. Chong's approach wasn't just weird, it was reckless. In one particularly concerning incident, Chong boasted about eavesdropping on a confidential White House call during the Biden administration. He allegedly stole a call-in number for a high-level meeting and joked about the potential fallout if he were to leak it. The brazen behavior left many wondering whether he had crossed legal lines. But Chong's greatest claim to fame within the Trump campaign was his handling of false stories about Trump. Rather than refuting the stories with evidence, he would respond with vitriol and expletives, often using language that was more fitting for a street brawl than a presidential campaign. One of his infamous lines was, "None of these stupid stories are even remotely true," followed by an onslaught of curses and insults directed at the media. Chong's removal from his key role in the final weeks of the campaign hints that even Trump's inner circle may have grown weary of his antics. As one political commentator put it, when you're down in the polls and the public narrative is slipping out of your control, getting rid of someone like Chong might be the campaign's attempt at damage control. But it's probably too little, too late. Leavitt, the Fox News regular Sidelined, While Steve Chong was known for his bombastic social media presence, Caroline Leavitt was often the public face of Trump's media appearances. She regularly appeared on Fox News to defend Trump's policies and rhetoric, even when his language strayed into uncharted and offensive territory. During one of her appearances on Fox News, Leavitt was asked to defend Trump's use of derogatory nicknames like New Scum for California Governor Gavin Newsom. Even the typically friendly Fox hosts were taken aback by the language Trump was using, asking whether this kind of rhetoric was a good strategy to win over voters. Leavitt, without hesitation, defended Trump's choice of words, arguing that the real problem was the Democrats' policies, not Trump's colorful language. This kind of staunch defense of Trump's extreme rhetoric made Leavitt a favorite among Trump's base, but it also alienated more moderate voters, particularly women and independents who tend to value civility in political discourse. Now, with her influence diminished, it's unclear who will step up to craft Trump's media strategy as the campaign enters its final, critical phase. The campaign's chaotic messaging strategy, a symptom of larger problems? The demotion of Chong and Leavitt raises broader questions about the state of the Trump campaign. Internally, reports have emerged that Trump has been lashing out at his team in fits of rage. According to sources, Trump was recently overheard screaming at his staff, calling them idiots and using a slew of expletives to describe Vice President Kamala Harris and even his own aides. This kind of behavior is nothing new for Trump, but the frequency and intensity of these outbursts seem to be increasing as Election Day approaches. One insider described a recent meeting where Trump exploded in anger, slamming his fists on the table and blaming his staff for his poor poll numbers. "He's furious," the source said. "He's blaming everyone but himself. He thinks the messaging isn't strong enough, but the reality is that he's the one driving the chaos." Even Trump's public speeches have taken on an increasingly erratic tone. During a recent appearance at the Detroit Economic Club, Trump made headlines by insulting the city of Detroit, calling it a crap hole, and warning that if Kamala Harris were elected, the entire country would end up looking like Detroit. The statement was baffling, especially considering Detroit's recent economic resurgence. It also alienated many Michigan voters, a key demographic Trump needs if he hopes to win the election. In response, the Harris campaign released a powerful ad celebrating Detroit's resilience and rebuking Trump's attacks. The ad featured footage of Detroit's bustling streets and successful businesses, painting a stark contrast to Trump's doom and gloom portrayal of the city. "He doesn't understand or care to learn," the ad declared. "When he says our whole country will end up being like Detroit, he should be so lucky." Trump's vulgar public outbursts, a sign of desperation? As the campaign unravels, Trump's public persona has become even more unfiltered than usual. He's now regularly using profanity in his speeches, even when speaking in front of religious audiences. At a recent church appearance, Trump led the crowd in chanting BS, except he didn't censor the words. He's also dropped F-bombs during his speeches, leaving many wondering if he's trying to shock voters into supporting him or if he's simply losing control. This kind of unrestrained language was once a hallmark of Trump's appeal to his base, who appreciated his tell-it-like-it-is attitude. But with each new outburst, he risks alienating the moderate voters he needs to win. "It's one thing to be tough on your opponents," said one political analyst, "but when you're swearing in churches and openly insulting entire cities, you've crossed a line." Internal chaos. Trump's team fractures amid uncertainty. The communication shakeup and Trump's growing frustration with his staff are indicative of deeper problems within the campaign. Sources close to the campaign describe an environment of fear and confusion, with staffers unsure of their roles and constantly worried about being the next to face Trump's wrath. One of the most damning reports to come out in recent weeks is that Trump is reportedly fixated on Kamala Harris, constantly ranting about her in private meetings and using expletives to describe her. This obsession has led some to believe that Trump feels threatened by Harris, who has emerged as a strong figure within the Democratic Party. "He's terrified of her," said one insider. "He won't stop talking about her, and it's starting to affect the way the campaign is being run." Trump's fixation on Harris, combined with his erratic behavior and the campaign's internal dysfunction, has left many political observers questioning whether he has the stability to lead the country again. As Election Day draws nearer, Donald Trump's campaign seems to be on the verge of collapse. The internal shakeups, chaotic messaging, and Trump's own public outbursts are all signs that the former president is struggling to maintain control. With key figures like Steve Chong and Caroline Leavitt being sidelined and Trump's temper flaring at every turn, the cracks in the campaign are becoming impossible to ignore. While Trump has always thrived on controversy, this time, the stakes are higher, as his team fractures and his behavior becomes more erratic. One has to wonder, can Trump hold it together long enough to cross the finish line, or is this the beginning of the end for his political career?